Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 60th episode of the Hyrulean Gamescast. And right now we're going to do our mailbag. So if you guys want to get in on that and be able to ask us questions for us to answer immediately, well, you can go ahead and just become one of our patrons, kind of like our group that we have here. So we have Jacob, Michael, Elmer, Bootleg Boy, a new one who is Vortex. I don't know if there's that many X's in Vortex's name.
Yeah.
And then we have our longtime fans that have been here for a very long time. We have Gus, Justin, That One Pancake, Key of Time, Monica, Casey, Link Used the Triforce, Megan, Lenurium, Robbie, Shadow to Us, Rusty, and Lovable Christy. And I totally forgot to introduce everyone else that I'm here with. Of course, I'm Chubalima. GameOverJesse, I don't know where he is on my... I'm not looking at the YouTube, but...
Oh, Miss Click just joined.
Huh?
Miss Click joined.
Pika.
She seems to always join at the Zelda Mailbag.
Yeah.
She's got an
Anyways.
inside formant.
Yeah, it's probably when she finishes streaming, so she just clicks over. Yeah. So, anyways.
Thank
you,
so
Patreon supporters.
Thank you, people.
Yeah.
We love you.
Yeah.
Give us all of your questions. And of
Choose.
course, feel free to super chat in the YouTube if you guys want to ask a question and get our attention right away. Or even just ask us questions. Like, we have a couple here in our pile, but we always like to answer more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 2 questions from Patreon supporters. I need to update the Patreon list because some of those people aren't Patreons anymore. But our first question from the Patreon supporter is we have Muted Mike and Amanda, who actually just joined the chat. So,
Hi.
Meme Lord, Muted Mike, says, do you think there will ever be a 3D multiplayer Legend of Zelda? Split screen, like in Hyrule Warriors, would work the best if it happened. Hyrule Warriors doesn't count. So the cool thing about the original Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U, because it had 2 screens, the gamepad and the normal, you could play full screen with the second player having the Wii U gamepad. So it wouldn't have to be split screen, you would just see like the behind the back perspective from both screens. And to answer that question, yes, the next big Zelda game, there's like a 90% chance it will be Breath of the Wild, but multiplayer. I don't mean like the same story as Breath of the Wild, but the same engine, gameplay, art style, and everything, but multiplayer. Because of the interviews between Aonuma saying that he wants to make a Zelda game with everything that he learned from Triforce Heroes and put it in the engine for Breath of the Wild. And then the president of Nintendo said they want to push the online focus of all of their games. So how do you push online focus? By having online multiplayer, which is the game that Aonuma wants. So it seems the president and the person in charge of Zelda are clicked in on the same idea. But yeah, Choobs, hi.
Hi!
Bye.
Your thoughts?
Oh.
Also, thank you, Muted
What are
Mike, for
thoughts?
being a Patreon.
Yes.
I think he's still a Patreon.
We're gonna start a choir for our Patreons.
I would very much like to see a multiplayer 3D Zelda game because I actually have friends now that I can play video games with. So please give me more games to play with my friends. So that way we don't have to do it illegally.
It's not illegal.
Yeah.
Nothing's illegal.
Daniel owns a copy of Four Swords, so
It's private use.
So
Copyright laws.
yeah.
do it
I
on
think-
Nintendo Switch so that way we can all actually use our Nintendo online services.
I concur.
Yeah.
Especially since I bought a family membership because we're a family.
Which I still haven't signed on to.
Send me your email, Lily.
I asked you which email you meant.
Anyways, whatever your Nintendo thing is linked to, but
Oh, that
The,
makes sense. Sorry.
I probably wouldn't, like a few years ago, probably would not have been down for multiplayer Zelda, but honestly, like playing through Four Swords online last week and everything, like I don't know, like it's just I don't think every Zelda game should be multiplayer, but I have a lot of fun playing Zelda multiplayer, and so I would be down for it. Like, it'd be so much fun. And yes, on Switch, with a legitimate online service would be fantastic. Because of reasons. Thank you for attending my seminar, Ilya.
I
Do
want
you
to say
have thoughts?
we've been playing Four Swords Adventures.
Okay, Ilya.
And it's been no, but it's been amazing. Like, even though we were stuck for a long
incredible.
time, I just wanted to say how
it's so much
amazing
fun.
Four Swords Adventures is, but it's a lot to set up. So Ilya,
When I played it the first time in my whole life there, I did not have anyone to play it with, and I could not make GBA link cables and stuff work to make my friends play with me, and it was not fun on my own. But actually playing it with other people is so much fun. So, sorry, Ilya. We will let you talk now.
yeah,
No, it's all good.
Actually, Ilya, don't talk. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
we all kept
So,
talking over Ilya.
I am open to an online multiplayer Zelda game as long as it's online and as long as it's not. That is it for the game. I want it to be, or like as long as it comes out like really soon after, really shortly before there is a main Zelda console game. You know, it'd be like if they, instead of releasing Breath of the Wild, just made a multiplayer Zelda game, I would have been pissed because it would have been like, no, I just want to do something on my own. So yeah, as long as it's online, because I have no one around here I would play with, like everyone's been saying, it's not fun when you don't have people to play with. And as long as it's either like just an extra mechanic, or at least there is another main one that's new, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But I'd be
It's
open
like
to
if
it.
they had done Triforce Heroes but did not have a Link Between Worlds come out like just
Yes.
before that.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
Goats my goats.
The example I always use is Breath of the Wild has a multiplayer-esque function to where another player isn't playing with you, but the computer is controlling Wolflink. So it would literally take like 10 minutes of code for Nintendo to allow someone to play as Wolflink instead of the computer. So my idea is how Wolflink is completely optional. You can go the entire game without him, but if you do have him, he is helpful. So make a Zelda game that is primarily single player, but has the option to bring in another person. Sort of like what they're doing with the fan mod that we're going to get soon, the Ocarina of Time multiplayer, to where it's, it's just Ocarina of Time, single player Ocarina of Time, but this gives you the option of playing it multiplayer with someone. So yeah, it's really, really cool. The only time that I can think of that would benefit from having multiplayer is like the Wind Waker dungeons, where you have to switch back and forth between the characters. So instead of having to switch back and forth, one person could just play as the Korok or whatever, and the other person could play as Link. Or in Majora's Mask, when you're getting the Sun Mask, I think, from the Sakon's hideout, you have to switch back and forth between Cafe. Is that his name? Cafe? I always thought it was a girl named Cafe, but it's a guy. But yeah, you have to like switch back and forth between Link and Cafe. Imagine doing a puzzle like that, but instead of switching back and forth and one person standing still the whole time, you both just run through the puzzle really quickly. So I think stuff like that would be really, 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 really cool. And then I think Phantom Hourglass, maybe Spirit Tracks, has a part where you have to switch between Link and Goron. Because I remember you have to like roll around one of the dungeons. Anyways, yeah, so hi, everybody. Next question. Ilya, you gave yours. Tubes, you gave yours?
Yeah.
Alright, so I think
Everybody.
the next question is right below muted mic, if someone wants to take it from
I don't
Patreon.
even see where muted mics is.
I don't see where
It's
that
in
is either.
the Zelda Mailbag on the Discord.
Oh, I look on Google Doc.
Yeah. It's two.
on Discord.
Yeah, there's two Patreon supporters asked a question.
Yeah, I didn't see them there because I was looking in the doc.
Yeah, so was I.
They're blue.
Oh, whoops. Well.
Hello, muted mic. Oh, it's Amanda!
Yeah, she's in the live chat
Yes.
now as well.
Read the question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Someone wants to take it.
I will do it. So, Amanda, one of our Patreon supporters, asks, what 2D game would you like to see a 3D remake of the most? And what game's art style would you want it to take after?
I've answered this before.
Oh.
I think
I'm
well,
going
I
to.
know that, like, A Link to the Past, but I'm not sure what style I'd want to do it in.
I'm going to
See,
say. I'm going to cheat and say Oracle of Ages and Seasons. That way I get 2.
Oh.
Oh, sassy.
Because they released at the same time.
Right. The thing with A Link to the Past, though, is A Link Between Worlds kind of started as that, so it's pretty easy to see how that remake would turn out. It would basically just be A Link Between Worlds.
Yeah, but
without
that's
the
still
wall
2D.
breaking. But,
Or like 2.5D. So like
Heck
3D
yeah.
would be like behind the back camera angle, like Ocarina of Time.
so, I mean... Well, okay, so we talked before about wanting a Zelda 2 remake, but I want it to still be like... I don't want it to be a 3D remake. But, you know what may be pretty cool? I'm just gonna go way old school and say Zelda 1 then. Because I played through it recently, and I enjoyed it. Even though I died a lot and was really bad at it, but there's a lot of neat little puzzles and stuff in that game, and I don't know, it could be really fun. Also, I remember seeing a few years ago someone recreated the entire map of Zelda 1 in Minecraft. And I'm not super huge into Minecraft, though I know they have a huge community, but it was very faithful recreation, and it was really cool to like he showed like a tour video, so it started out above, like him facing straight downwards, so you could see from above. It looked perfect rendition of Zelda 1's map, and then he drops down and starts walking around the world, and it's a really neat video showing, and he's just walking around the map, just showing off like how it would look if you were down there, and that was really cool. So I'd love to see that and as a 3D remake. But then there would be the naysayers, of course, but there always is. So, Yar, who did not pick Ilya?
Yar!
Yeah.
Ilya.
Her camera's gone.
No,
Yeah.
Ilya, come back.
So while we're waiting on her, Daniel, do you want to pick one?
Do it! Oh, she's given up on Skype entirely.
So the Sacred Slinger actually put this in the Zelda Mailbag as well. I don't know if we put it in our thing on the Google Doc, but Sacred Slinger on Discord asks, do you think it's about time we've gotten a great Flood game lore ever since Skyward Sword shows that a hero could have appeared? So I'm thinking a game that takes place. Oh, Ilya's back. That takes.
Am
place
I though? Just give it
or-
3 seconds.
Okay. So my issue with this concept actually, and it's something that people brought up to us probably in the past on the podcast, but a game that takes place between Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker, sort of showing like what happens during the flood. But the whole thing for me is that the flood occurs specifically in the lore because a hero did not appear. So does that mean you play a game where you are not the hero? Or are you just not a remembered character in the lore for some reason? Or is it a whole game that is completely set up where you have to fail at the end? Because either way, that's kind of a bummer too.
So if you play through Ocarina of Time, 90% of the people have no idea who you are. They're just like, oh, it's the fairy boy from the woods. Like when you go to Hyrule Castletown, after you've already like beaten 5 dungeons, you've saved like Lake Hylia. Nobody knows Link saved Lake Hylia. They just know like, oh, the lake's filled up now. Who did that? Or like the Gorons are gone. Now they're back. How'd the volcanoes the volcano's not on fire anymore? Nobody knows it's you.
No, though, because like the Gorons know.
Yeah,
they take note of it
well,
when you help
Yeah.
them.
The normal people
You
though.
do go down in history. You know, like like in future games, it's mentioned like the feats that.
Yeah, but like
previously stepped up, right?
that's all after he does it. I'm talking about like like everyone probably comes to know, like after you stop Ganon at the end of the game, everyone is like, oh, Link did this. Like the stories are passed down to everyone. But I'm saying like up until that point, like you could do the entire game, beat the Spirit Temple. The only thing that you're really known for by the Hylians is like, oh, that's that guy that was good at the mini games. He shot all the rupees with the slingshot.
That
or
guy
like,
was in my archery contest.
Yeah. Or like, oh, that's the kid that played the song I Hate Him, blah blah blah. Or like, that's the guy that ran through and grabbed all the chickens. Like, that's the only thing that they know Link as. It's only until probably after you beat Ganon and everything happens that the stories start passing around and people start recognizing all of the things that he did. Because, like, the guy on the roof, whenever the volcano erupts and he, like, falls backwards or whatever, like, he doesn't know that Link is the reason that the volcano's not active anymore. So, so in Ocarina of Time, for example, you could do everything, save everyone, but if, like, you failed or died, like, after you beat the Spirit Temple, like the Downfall timeline, then no one really knows that you are the one who did all of this stuff. So it could be something like that, to where, like, it's a hero that came and, like, you could do everything, but it comes to the final moment and you die. And, like, you know, no one knows that he's the one that did everything, even though he is. Like, it's only the Gorons that know, or the Zora that know. It's not until after that everyone knows.
I guess you have a point too, because I think the real world answer is because these games came first, so they hadn't thought of these concepts.
Yeah.
But in game, there's no real record or mention of Ocarina of Time, the Hero of Time Link, in those games. But we do know that when Link succeeds in A Link to the Past, he is recorded as having, like, gone down in history as a hero, because we see that in A Link Between Worlds. So, I guess I feel like if you had this game where you set out to do all these things and it comes to the end of the game and you're this forgotten hero who does not succeed, that is just that's a huge bummer. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I
feel like that would be anticlimactic.
It'd be a huge plot twist, and maybe in hindsight, like 10 years after, we'd look it back and be like, that was really smart and I really liked that or something. But I feel like at the time, as far as playing a video game goes, for me sitting down, when I finish the game, I don't want to feel bummed out like that. I want to feel accomplished, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's not, you know, and yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Ilya and Chiblima look really good right now. Like, your cameras are, not you, just like your camera quality.
Yeah, not you.
Like, something happened.
You gross.
Like, I don't know if you can tell on the video stream, but, like, Daniel's video is, like, a little bit pixelated. But then, if you look at Chubes and Ilya, like, it looks just as clear as mine. Like, super HD.
Why am I so fuzzy looking?
I don't know. They were earlier. Like, they were fuzzy too, but now they're like, once Ilya came back, like, they're super clear.
It's my angel wings.
You know what that means?
He just leaves. Daniel.
No. So I missed half of the conversation, so I'm sorry if I repeat something when I answer.
I'm just kidding. I'm not leaving. You can't get rid of me.
We can just leave you in the circle.
No!
We'll drag and drop you at the bottom.
But anyways, I don't mean to be a big bummer or a downer
no, you're super HD.
on this idea, Sacred Slinger. I don't want to be, like, raining on everybody's parade, because I know a lot of people have put forward this idea or brought it up in the past, but I don't know. I'm not into it. So
I'm with you. I don't think it would make sense. Especially since the games aren't made with a timeline placement in mind.
Yeah. I feel like it's still, like, sure, like, we want to know. The original plan was each Zelda's a separate legend apart from all the others, and I was like,
no, it's not.
Yeah, okay, so
triggered!
to the person who said that each Zelda game was supposed to be a legend on its own, there's no timeline in mind, that is the biggest BS that there is. I explained this the other day. So, from the very beginning, there was always a timeline in mind. From the very beginning. Yep. There are interviews that confirm this as well. So Zelda 1 was created as just The Legend of Zelda. And then immediately Zelda 2 was made. A direct sequel to Zelda 1.
AKA,
right there.
They're connected.
They said it was.
Saying each Zelda game is a thing on its own is completely stupid. If you believe that, after explaining this, I'm sorry, you were an idiot. Because the first Zelda was made. Immediately, there was a timeline in mind because Zelda 2 directly followed that. And then they had
guess what?
A Link to the Past.
A prequel.
A Link to the Past was named A Link to the Past because Nintendo planned on it taking place in the past.
There's also like pre-release interviews where Miyamoto says like, oh, this is not the same Link and Zelda from the first game. This is a prequel. It takes place before the first Zelda game. And already he's explaining that these games are connected. It's not a retelling.
And then guess what? They had Link's Awakening.
A sequel.
A sequel, part 2, to A Link to the Past. And around that same time, maybe a little bit before, they had Ocarina of Time, which they said was at the very beginning of the Zelda timeline. So every single Zelda game was made and planned with the timeline in mind. Saying it's not is dumb. That whole thing, like each game is a dream of its own or a legend of its own, not connected to any others, is stupid. Don't be stupid.
Well, I think they just reneged it. I think they're saying in the chat now, they're like, that's what I was told when I was a kid. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's it's what a lot of people believe, but it's unfortunately misinformation that you were given, because from Ocarina of Time onwards, it's still very easy to point out how they're connected. Wind Waker, the Majora's Mask Direct sequel, Wind Waker has a very strong connection to Ocarina of Time. So does Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and I'm not even glossing. Yeah. I'm just really glossing over the games in between, like the handheld games and stuff. Which
Skyward Sword was created specifically to be the origin of the timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
So, like that was the only
game that's like questionably timeline, even though we have our own very good theory about it. Breath of the Wild's still the only thing that's like up in the air.
Yeah, because Nintendo said it was at the very end of all three.
Yeah,
they didn't confirm if like no matter what happens, Breath of the Wild happens, or if it's combined. They didn't say. It's just at the end of all three. So
yeah. But yes. I hope that clears things up for people, because it bothers me every time someone.
Yeah, it's like whenever people think that like Ura Zelda could release on the Nintendo 64 disk drive, or like Nintendo could release an expansion for the 3DS, and I'm like, that's not the same version of Ocarina of Time. Like the version, like the Ura expansion for Ocarina of Time would be like Master Quest with a few extra side quests.
Okay.
Zelda's
Link, the fifth champion in the chat. Sorry, Jesse.
Yeah.
He says Breath of the Wild should be in the Fallen Hero timeline because the Hero of Time is Breath of the Wild Link.
No.
He's not the same Link.
No, he's not.
Breath of the Wild Link is his own Link. And the game takes place 10,000 years after.
There's a line of dialogue as well that directly references Zora Legend, where in both Mipha's Diary and in the Zora Ancient Stone Tablets, it mentions that Princess Ruto is really, really, really ancient history and fell in love with a hero that lived really, really long time ago. That's Link and Ruto from Ocarina of Time. Yep. Not the same characters that are in Breath of the Wild. And like there's no connection of them being the same character whatsoever. They don't look the same. They don't dress the same. They both have the Master Sword. They're both Link. That's about it. But otherwise, there's no real connection.
Yeah.
No.
It's a theory that I also thought of when all we had was the like very first trailer of the game.
Yeah, I did that too.
Put a video about it, but I think there was a bunch of videos about that too. But
well, at that time,
point, you could have said that about any of the here. Like it could have been any of them.
Yeah.
Right?
So like at that point, it actually made sense when we just seen the first trailer, because this Link is a Link that's woken up after a long time, that like whether he fell asleep or he was defeated or killed, whatever the reason, like he wakes up after a long time, Ganon's taken over Hyrule, it makes sense for it to be like a third Hero of Time game taking place in the Downfall timeline, because that's the only Link that's defeated. Ganondorf's already taken over Hyrule. That Link's defeated, so if he wakes up like 100 years later, like this Link, then it kind of makes sense. Like, it fits there. But as soon as you start playing the game and do something other than watch that first trailer, you realize that, hey, no. And then, like, all the connections that people make is like, oh, his tunic has this on it, so blah, blah, blah. Nintendo said, like, 1,000 times that they just make Link look the way he does because they like the way that he looks. It has nothing to do with the lore. Just like when people look at the geography and they're like, oh, Lake Hylia is here, so it must be connected to this game where Lake Hylia is here. When Nintendo said the geography, like, there's nothing about the geography that's, like, lore-based. They just create Hyrule to be as fun as they want.
There's often a lot of overlap.
The same map?
There's a lot of
fun.
Things that kind of generally fall in line or kind of the same-ish. Like, the desert is consistently in the bottom left corner of the map. But it's not exactly the same every time. Deathmount is consistently to the north. It's not exactly the same every time.
It's almost as stupid as when people say Link is dead or Majora's Mask is a dream.
But
right, next question. Right?
Yes, sorry.
Ilya, do you want to pick the next question?
Yes, Ilya.
Where are the questions?
People in the chat, you can ask a question. Link, Mina, Abigail,
because I can't tell which ones in the Google Doc have been used or not. So.
Just go to the Zelda Mailbag. They're newer. Cliff, JD, Taketorno, XX, Bronze, Abigail, Link, Mina, JD, Abigail. Give us questions.
Yes. Also, while Ilya's choosing a question, I realize we're kind of being bummers, you guys, and we're not trying to rain on everyone's parade, of course.
No.
We're not trying to be mean.
We love you guys. We don't want to be mean, but it's just like, gotta lay down the cold hard facts sometimes.
We just want to clear up the misconceptions. Like, there was one of our friends posted a video about Ura Zelda on the Nintendo 64 disk drive, and the facts were kind of not correct in the video. So I wanted to make a video like correcting it using interviews with Al Numa instead of speculation to kind of fix that, and I think I did a good job. I haven't posted the edited version of that video. Ilya did some voiceovers for it, and I'm going to do some actual voiceovers and create a scripted video for it as opposed to the discussion that we had the other day. But yeah, Ura Zelda is not what everyone thinks it is. No. But Ilya,
did you choose a question?
Yeah, did you pick a question?
I have a question to answer and an acknowledgement because someone asked about Stan Lee. So just quick rip Stan Lee.
Oh yes.
For anyone that doesn't know, forever missed. I'm pretty sure they recorded all of his cameos a long time ago.
No, so the thing is, I was watching a Kevin Smith podcast actually. He has a podcast called. That one too, but he has a podcast called Fat Man on Batman because he was a fat man and he talks about Batman, but they recently changed it because he's no longer fat and they didn't want to use Batman in the title because they don't own the word Batman. That's why we don't have Zelda in our title. So he calls it Fat Man Beyond now because he had a heart attack and he lost a lot of weight. Now he's like super skinny and super healthy, but now it's called Fat Man Beyond. Because of the comic Batman Beyond. Anyways, because he talks about comic books, they were talking about Stan Lee. And in a way, like, it's always sad when someone passes, but now, like, he's not suffering anymore. I don't know how bad he was suffering. I just remember Kevin Smith on some of his podcasts because he was really good friends with Stan Lee. He was in, like, one or two of his movies. And he had the show Comic Book Man that had Stan Lee featured some in it. Anyways, they were really good friends, and like there was a charity event that Stan Lee was having, and he requested Kevin Smith to be the host of it because they were such good friends, and like Kevin Smith actually owns like a comic book shop and stuff. So Kevin Smith was telling the story about it and how like Stan Lee would have like 2 or 3 assistants with him, like one to like take down notes and like the schedules and everything. and the other assistant would just do whatever, like he would go and get stuff, and then he had one assistant that would help him like walk around and stuff, because like he would need someone there with him to like make sure he didn't fall or whatever, because he's like 95 years old, and people get old and like they can't move as well. So he had an assistant helper that would like help him walk around and stuff. And then of course whenever they would shoot the scenes or whatever, like he would back off, and then Stan Lee, like usually in the scenes, like he's sitting down or he's just standing still, he's never really like walking around and stuff. Like if you watch the old cameos in like the original Spider-Man movies, like he'll walk up to Peter Parker and say something or something like that, and then he'll walk away. But now it's like he just stands still or like he's sitting down, because apparently he had to have someone that would help him walk. So another thing was Kevin Smith talked about whenever he would record his cameos, he would go to the studio and they would record like 5 or 6 at once. Like they would record
that's what I was saying.
They would record the cameos.
They do a lot at once.
And Stan Lee wouldn't even they wouldn't even know which cameo they would put in which movie. They would just try to find the best one to fit, because there was in Deadpool 1, I think, there's the part where like Deadpool goes into the strip club and Stan Lee has his cameo because he's like at the counter of the strip club, and they said that like Stan Lee got mad because he didn't know that cameo was going to be placed in a strip club, because it could have been like green screened or whatever and used at like just like a cafe, a normal restaurant. He was just like behind a bar and he said something and that's it. Like he didn't know it was going to be used for a strip club. So there was articles I remember seeing where Stan Lee said that he was upset about that. But at the same time, it's like there's a lot worse stuff in that movie. Like a strip club was one of the tamed things, but I understand why he would be upset, because like
I'd be upset if someone did that to me. Be like, don't associate me with that.
Like it's one thing for like characters in your movies to be doing something, but it's another for you to be in a scene that also involves it. So anyways, he's likely, like I would say, like whenever they made the Infinity War, he likely went in and did like 6 or 7 different scenes there. Because instead of having him come back like every month or 2 to do a new scene, they record a bunch at once and they just green screen it in. Like in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it's just like a giant green screen. And then they made it so he's talking to the Watchers in space or whatever. So anyways, the point is, he probably has like a lot recorded already, and they could they could save them and use them in a movie. Like if they only put it in the big movies, they could save his cameos to be in like Avengers 6 and 7 10 years from now. Or they could just use them all at once. Like they could do like Avengers 4, Captain Marvel, the new Spider-Man movie, and whatever's coming next. Like they could use them all within the next 2 years, or they could space them out for the really important movies so that he has a cameo in like Avengers 7 or whatever. So there's probably like 4 or 5 that are unused, and they could just not use them out of respect, or they could try to think of something really, really good. Like I think the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was really good, because that was the one that confirmed the theory that Stan Lee's character in all of the movies was the same character, and he was just playing, I forgot who it was, like the Watchers or whatever, where like they can visit different universes. And like, so that was they confirmed that he was like one of those god characters, to where like he just goes and like watches over everything. So that was really, really cool. It was one of my favorites, because it connects like even the old Spider-Man movies with like Tobey Maguire, the Venom movie that was just shot, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, the new Spider-Man movies, all of the old X-Men movies, the Deadpool movie, the Fantastic Four movies, the reboot to the Fantastic Four, all of the Avengers stuff. So like all of these movies from different companies like Sony that like were canceled a long time ago, like the old Spider-Mans, it still connects all of those movies to take place in like the same multiverse, because they came out and said that yes, Stan Lee is the same person in all of these movies. So he's like a god-like character that can just like go to different universes. It's crazy. Also, thank you, Terry. We love you too. Ilya, sorry. Yes, that was our Stan Lee rant. If anyone else has anything to say, but yeah.
Because I know someone had mentioned that to me earlier. They were like, oh, it's too bad before the movies came out. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they recorded it all a long time ago. That's what I was saying. But the actual question that I found was a pretty simple one.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Elia Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.